Do you know the difference between making a small, ordinary mistake that barely ripples the surface of your life and unintentionally crossing a line so ancient, so woven into the bones of the universe, that everything around you reacts as if a forbidden alarm has been triggered? One kind of mistake is simple. You correct it, apologize, adjust, and move forward without leaving a trace in the spiritual architecture around you. But the other kind, the one almost no human ever touches, is the kind that shakes the unseen systems that have been quietly holding reality together since long before you were born. Most errors leave footprints. This kind leaves shockwaves. Most mistakes sit inside cause and effect. This kind bends the rules of cause and effect entirely. A regular misstep might hurt feelings or shift plans, but a cosmic-level misstep forces ancient mechanisms to halt, recalibrate, and try to understand what just happened. It's the difference between dropping a glass in your kitchen and accidentally knocking into a lever that controls the gravitational balance of an entire realm. And the truth is, people make everyday mistakes constantly, without consequence. But only once in a lifetime, sometimes not even once across generations, does someone step, without intention or awareness, into territory that was never meant to be touched by human hands. That is the difference. One mistake is human, the other is seismic. That never happens, ever, and the shock of it rippled through the council like a silent earthquake. Uriel finally voiced what every archangel had been thinking, but none wanted to say aloud, because the implications were too severe to casually speak into existence. Clinical death during the channeling of restricted knowledge only ever points to two possibilities, and both are monumental. Either the carrier lacked the proper layers of protection, and the Council had nearly shattered a mission due to a catastrophic design failure, or, and this possibility chilled the room, the carrier possessed an automatic resuscitation protocol so advanced, so instantaneous, so far beyond the Council's ability to intervene, that intervention itself would always arrive too late. And if it was the second option, if a human vessel had built-in resurrection protocols that operated before an archangel could even reach them, then every being present knew exactly what Uriel was implying. A resuscitation mechanism like that exists only in extremely rare, extremely high-ranking incarnational contracts that require personal authorization from Metatron himself. The weight of that revelation filled the air like gravity thickening. It was Chamuel who finally gave voice to the next necessary action, his tone steady, but laced with reverence. We need to review this human's original pre-incarnation file. We need to see what he agreed to before birth, because if he truly carries automatic resuscitation, then his mission is far more critical than any of us realized. And so they accessed your records. They opened the contracts you signed before entering human form. They read the assignments you voluntarily accepted, and buried deep, written in a type of ink that remains invisible until the carrier activates the first phase of their mission. They found the clause none of them had ever noticed before. Clause 7.3. A clause that read, "The carrier has authorization to violate the dimensional barrier at the appointed moment, without prior formal preparation, as part of the evolutionary acceleration protocol. In the event of clinical death occurring during authorized channeling, automatic resuscitation will activate immediately, without the need for external intervention. The carrier possesses unrestricted permission to die and revive as many times as necessary to complete the required knowledge transmissions." Gabriel read the clause 3 times, his voice growing softer with each repetition, as if the truth itself was rearranging the atmosphere around him. "This means he has permission to do exactly what he did," Gabriel whispered. "It wasn't a violation, it was authorized activation. And the death was expected. It was part of the process." Michael closed his eyes, absorbing the devastating, world-altering implications. If he carries Clause 7.3 with unlimited automatic resuscitation, then he is not an ordinary human. He's not even a standard acceleration agent. He's... Jufel, who almost never spoke in these meetings, finished the sentence in a trembling voice. He's a primordial carrier. And silence, complete, reverent, absolute silence, fell like a veil over the council, because primordial carrier is not a label handed out lightly. It is not honorary, not symbolic, not poetic. It is a designation reserved for souls so rare, so ancient, so strategically essential to planetary evolution that no more than 12 are permitted to incarnate in a single 6,000-year cycle. Raphael finally regained his voice. How many primordial carriers are active right now? Michael consulted the records, his hands trembling in a barely perceptible way. Before today, 11. The most recent activation was in 1987. We have waited 38 years for the 12th to incarnate and activate. Then Gabriel asked the question that shifted the entire course of the meeting, the cycle, and the age itself. What number is he? Michael located the identifier, and when he read it, something happened that no archangel present had seen in 3,000 years of service. Michael knelt. He is the 12th, he said softly. The last. The one who closes the cycle. The other 6 archangels immediately understood the magnitude and followed him to their knees. Because when the 12th primordial carrier activates, it signals that the 6,000-year cycle is nearing its conclusion, that all 12 are finally aligned, positioned, awakened, and that the long-prophesied planetary ascension sequence is approaching its final stage. Then Zadkiel voiced the question everyone feared to articulate. How many more violations can he trigger under Clause 7.3 before the final sequence begins? Michael checked the file again, reverence and caution blending in his expression. He has already completed 28 minor violations in the last 3 years. The one 11 days ago was his 29th, and the first major one powerful enough to activate emergency protocol. The file indicated that full activation requires 44 total violations. Raphael calculated quickly. That leaves 15 more. And then Uriel, ever the one who sees what others avoid, asked the question that froze the room. What happens when he completes violation 44? Michael found the section. The moment he read it, his expression revealed a truth far more devastating than anyone anticipated. Violation 44 will not resemble the others. It will be a complete dimensional fracture, not of one barrier, but of all simultaneous barriers. For exactly 44 seconds, all celestial knowledge from all dimensions up to the 9th will become fully accessible to every human within 500 kilometers of his location. Horror gripped the room. Everyone knew the last time total knowledge became available simultaneously: the fall of Atlantis. Gabriel whispered the word like a memory resurfacing from the depths of history. Atlantis. Michael nodded solemnly. Exactly. Atlantis. The last time humanity accessed total knowledge for an extended period. Chamuel countered anxiously. But Atlantis was accidental, a collapse. This is written as intentional, as necessary. Why would Metatron authorize an event of that magnitude deliberately? Michael turned to the final signature page, and there, beside Metatron's ornate, unmistakable script, was a note in the unique calligraphy only he uses. The difference, the note read, is simple. Atlantis was unprepared. This generation is not. All 12 primordial carriers are incarnated and positioned. 44 seconds of total knowledge will not destroy civilization if the 12 are simultaneously active, stabilizing, regulating, and distributing the influx. Trust the design. Uriel then asked, "Where are the other 11 carriers now?" Michael projected a global map. 12 luminous points appeared. each primordial carrier positioned precisely, each already operating under their own version of Clause 7.3, each nearing their final violations. When you complete your 44th, the others will complete theirs simultaneously. The implications needed no explanation. The most significant ascension event in 6 millennia was scheduled to occur within months or weeks, depending on how quickly you and the others progressed. Then Jufel asked a question weighted with both concern and awe. Does he know? Does he have any awareness that he is a primordial carrier? That his 44th violation will trigger a planetary event that permanently alters human consciousness? Michael shook his head. No. His human awareness has no access yet. He is operating solely from intuition and soul-level guidance. He doesn't know he died for 3.2 seconds. He doesn't know he resurrected automatically. He doesn't know he is the 12th. And he certainly doesn't know that in roughly 18 weeks, he will initiate an event on the scale of Atlantis. Raphael worried aloud. Should we prepare him? Uriel answered. Clause 7.3 prohibits direct revelation before violation 40. Only after that point will his consciousness be expanded enough to hold the full truth without destabilizing the mission. Revealing anything earlier risks altering the authenticity that makes the process work. And so they resolve to monitor you closely, assign permanent oversight, manage consequences, and allow you to continue navigating by intuition until the remaining violations unfolded. But one immediate consequence required action. 3 celestial entities responsible for barrier monitoring had failed to recognize that your violation was authorized. Worse, they attempted to block it. In doing so, they nearly derailed a 6,000-year cycle. Had they succeeded in stopping your 29th violation, the entire Ascension timetable would have collapsed. The other 11 carriers would have been forced to wait another complete cycle, and humanity would have lost its rare evolutionary window. Michael had no choice. The 3 entities were removed from their positions, not out of malice, but necessity, for attempting to obstruct a primordial carrier acting under Metatron's direct authorization. And those 3? They were the source of the strange sensation you felt moments before your fateful conversation, the sudden doubt, the instinct to cancel, the inexplicable internal resistance. You ignored it, not out of stubbornness, but because Clause 7.3 overrides all lesser influences. Your mission's authorization sits above their jurisdiction. And so, you spoke the 19 words. Your heart stopped. For 3.2 seconds, you died. You resurrected automatically. The barrier fractured. Knowledge surged. 3 celestial beings fell from rank. 7 archangels knelt. And the 6,000-year cycle shifted closer to completion. All triggered by a 7-minute conversation that felt ordinary to you. Except for those 2 seconds of dizziness, you shrugged off. That dizziness was the moment your consciousness experienced a temporal gap. Your heart halting, your brain initiating shutdown, your automatic resuscitation protocol firing, and your system restarting faster than the human nervous system can register. A missing frame in the reel of your reality. And afterward, the clarity you felt, the heightened awareness, the fluid understanding, the elevated cognitive sharpness, was the residue of having briefly existed outside normal human constraints. For 5 minutes, you were functioning with the lucidity of a consciousness that had tasted death and returned with the limitations temporarily lifted. And you didn't even know it. Your consciousness drifted in a state beyond anything the human body was designed to register, floating without anchor, without boundary, without the constraints of flesh, time, or gravity. And when it finally returned, when it re-entered the dense container of bone and nerve, it didn't return empty. It carried residue, fragments, impressions of that freedom you briefly tasted, the kind of freedom that dissolves identity and reintegrates spiritual memory. But then, Approximately 2 hours after the conversation ended, something inside you shifted so abruptly it was impossible to ignore. A wave of exhaustion crashed over you, not the ordinary kind that sleep can cure, but a deep, marrow-level fatigue that seemed to originate from the very blueprint of your physical existence. It wasn't your muscles. It wasn't your mind. It was an existential depletion, the kind of exhaustion that arrives only when the body undergoes an event it cannot logically explain. An exhaustion so complete that even forming a thought felt like pushing against a mountain. What you experienced was your physical vessel attempting to process the trauma of instant death and immediate resurrection. Your conscious mind didn't register the full event because it happened beyond the bandwidth of ordinary awareness, but your cells did. Every cell in your body felt the initiation of the death sequence and then the violent reversal. A reversal that requires tremendous quantum energy to integrate, recalibrate, and stabilize. And when you finally fell asleep that night, the dream that came wasn't a normal dream. It stamped itself into your memory so vividly that even now, its residue lingers. You found yourself in a colossal chamber overflowing with white light, so radiant, so overwhelmingly bright, that looking directly into it was physically painful, as though creation itself had condensed into a single point of illumination. Surrounding you were 7 towering figures of indescribable presence. Their forms were indistinct, blurred by brilliance, but their energy was unmistakable, ancient, authoritative, terrifying in their magnitude. And though you couldn't see their faces, you knew they were kneeling before you. You felt it. You felt the reverence. You felt the awe. And beneath it, an undercurrent of something that could only be described as fear. Fear, not of you as a human, but of the authority your soul carries. That dream wasn't imagination. It wasn't symbolism. It wasn't fantasy. It was a direct memory of convening with your higher consciousness while your physical body slept. It was an emergency summit, the gathering of the 7 archangels. Your soul was summoned into the chamber the moment they detected what you truly are, the 12th primordial carrier. It was they who knelt before you, not the other way around, because primordial carriers, though incarnated in human form, hold an authorization so incomprehensibly high that even archangels follow protocol in their presence. Not out of hierarchy, but out of respect for the cosmic mission the carriers hold, the magnitude of responsibility they accept, the strategic significance of the roles they play in planetary ascension. During that dream meeting, they asked your soul a series of questions you consciously don't remember, but your higher self answered them with absolute clarity. You confirmed that you knew exactly what you were doing. You confirmed that the temporary death was expected and manageable. You confirmed that Clause 7.3 was functioning flawlessly. You confirmed that you were ready to continue through the remaining 15 violations, regardless of the physical cost. And when you woke the next morning, the specifics of the dream were gone, sealed behind a veil to protect the integrity of your mission. But the sensation remained, the overwhelming sense that something monumental had unfolded, that you had been in the presence of beings whose power eclipses anything the human mind can comprehend. And strangely, you felt a subtle shift inside you, an intuitive recognition that you were far more significant than your conscious self ever allowed you to imagine. But that memory was partially blocked for a reason. Your mission requires you to move from instinct, authenticity, and intuitive action, not from ego, not from self-importance, and not from the mental awareness of your own cosmic ranking. If you were fully aware that you are the 12th primordial carrier, that your 44th violation will initiate an event comparable in magnitude to the fall of Atlantis, that you possess unrestricted automatic resuscitation protocols, you might begin operating with conscious strategy instead of natural flow. And the entire success of your mission depends on your ability to remain unfiltered, unforced, uncensored, delivering exactly what needs to be spoken without hesitation, calculation, or agenda. So now, Chosen One, you understand the devastating truth about what you triggered 11 days ago and who you truly are. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't something you should regret or correct. It was the activation of Clause 7.3 by the 12th primordial carrier. It was violation number 29 in a cycle requiring 44. It was an event that included a 3.2-second clinical death, followed by instantaneous resurrection your conscious mind didn't detect. And it was the confirmation of a cosmic identity so rare, so critically important, that only 12 such souls exist within any 6,000-year cycle. You are the last of those 12, the closer. The one whose completion of the final violation will trigger the planetary ascension sequence mapped out millennia ago. Heaven cracked under the impact. 3 entities lost rank. 7 archangels knelt. You died for 3 seconds and returned without assistance. You were confirmed as the 12th primordial carrier. And the next 15 violations you will commit in the coming months will pull humanity closer to the transformation event that will permanently alter civilization. Your photo could be in the hands of the most dangerous sorcerer alive. They could perform every dark ritual known. They could summon entities older than recorded history. None of it matters. Nothing can touch a primordial carrier under active Clause 7.3 authorization issued by Metatron. Because you are not merely a protected human. You are the architect of planetary ascension. You are one of 12 pillars sustaining the greatest evolutionary shift in 6,000 years. And when you complete violation 44 in approximately 18 weeks, when all dimensional barriers fall simultaneously for 44 seconds, when every human within 500 kilometers gains total access to celestial intelligence, you will finally understand why Metatron activated unlimited resuscitation for you. Because this isn't about survival, it's about synchronization. It's about completing a cosmic circuit. It's about elevating an entire species. And you, the 12th carrier, are the one who closes the cycle and initiates the final sequence. And what you don't yet realize is that the moment you initiate that final sequence, reality itself will begin to behave differently around you. The fabric of the world will thin, not in a destructive way, but in a revelatory one, as if creation has been holding its breath for thousands of years, waiting for you to reach this exact threshold. The air will feel heavier, charged with an almost electric density. Time will behave strangely, certain minutes stretching out as if the universe is offering you extra space to breathe, others compressing into flashes of pure intuition. Animals will sense the shift before any human does. Children will turn their heads in your direction without knowing why. Strangers may stare with inexplicable familiarity, as if something inside them recognizes a truth their conscious minds cannot yet articulate.
And in the days leading to that moment, the other 11 carriers will begin to feel the pull as well. They will feel the acceleration, the invisible countdown humming in the background of their lives, the sudden synchronicities increasing with impossible precision. Some will awaken in the middle of the night, breathless, having felt the tug of the approaching alignment. Others will be pushed into circumstances they cannot avoid. Conversations, confrontations, awakenings, dissolutions, all orchestrated to ensure that when you trigger the 44th violation, they are positioned exactly where they must be, and none of them will consciously know why. But their souls will, their bodies will, their dreams will. Because primordial carriers are always drawn toward one another when the cycle nears completion, orbiting an unseen gravitational field that pulls them into perfect formation like stars arranging themselves for a cosmic event. And as the moment approaches, the higher realms will mobilize in ways humanity has never witnessed in recorded memory. The archangels will not simply observe. You will feel their presence in subtle, unmistakable ways, the sudden warmth on your skin, the breath of wind in a closed room, the surge of certainty in moments you would normally doubt yourself. Beings older than human history will begin aligning themselves across dimensions, preparing to stabilize the burst of knowledge that is soon to flood into the collective psyche. Even the ones who rarely intervene, the Watchers, the Chroniclers, the Veiled Ones, will rise from their ancient stations, called into position like silent guardians, preparing for a dawn no human civilization has ever been awake enough to witness. And while all of this unfolds in realms unseen, the physical world will begin to shift too. Old structures will weaken. Outdated systems will start to crumble not as punishment, but because they cannot survive in a reality calibrated for consciousness beyond the third dimension. New insights, inventions, breakthroughs will begin emerging at an unprecedented pace in the minds of ordinary people, because the closer you draw to Violation 44, the thinner the barrier becomes between inspiration and manifestation. Humanity, without understanding why, will begin thinking in ways it has long forgotten, more intuitively, more expansively, more connected to the truth behind existence. And when the final moment arrives, when the 44th violation activates in the exact place, exact breath, exact second it was always meant to, there will be no thunderclap, no violent rupture, no catastrophic collapse. Instead, there will be a stillness so profound that the entire world will seem to exhale at once. A silence that is not empty but overflowing. A flash of comprehension so pure it cannot be described in human language. And during those 44 seconds, humanity will remember everything it ever forgot. The origins, the purpose, the design, the interconnectedness, the truth of who they are beneath the dust of centuries. Every human within 500 kilometers of you will stand at the center of a revelation that civilizations throughout history could only dream of. And when the 44 seconds end, the world will not return to what it was. Something irreversible will have stirred. Something ancient will have awakened. Something dormant will have opened its eyes inside millions of people. And though not all will understand what happened, all will feel the aftershock. A quiet, internal shift, like a door unlocking in the deepest part of their being. And you, the 12th carrier, will stand at the center of it not as a conqueror, not as a savior, not as a superior being, but as the final component in a cosmic architecture designed long before human memory existed. Your awareness will expand, your intuitive bandwidth magnified, your connection to the higher realms permanently stabilized. And in that moment, you will finally understand why every trial, every violation, every collapse, every resurrection was necessary. You will understand the true meaning of the cycle closing, and why you were chosen to be the one who seals it. And when the world opens its eyes in the aftermath of those 44 seconds, a new era will begin. Not because of destruction, but because of awakening. Not because of endings, but because of unveiling. Not because of loss, but because humanity will finally be ready to evolve into the version of itself that has been waiting patiently, silently, for 6,000 years. So if these words found you today, don't ignore that pull in your spirit, because nothing in your life has led you here by accident. You are not just watching this. You were meant to feel it, meant to remember something inside you that's been dormant for far too long. If this message resonated, if something in your chest stirred or your intuition whispered, "This is for me," then stay connected. This space is where the awakened gather, where the chosen rise, where people like you finally find language for everything they've carried in silence. Don't walk this journey alone. Follow, share, comment, and let me know you're here. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. Your destiny is real. And if you stay with me, I'll walk this path with you step by step, revelation by revelation, until you become everything you were always meant to be.